Thank you so much for joining us for this installment of MagicA11y, where we'll be discussing ePub's Beyond the Pages, a journey to accessible digital reading. For those of you who don't know, MagicA11y is a series of events that we host in which we take one accessibility topic each time and take a deep dive into it. My name is MagicA11y, and today I am joined by two of Magic EdTech's wonderful accessibility experts, Erin and Tarveen. Erin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you all for joining us. I'm Erin Evans. I am our Director of Accessibility Consulting Services here at Magic. We're excited to have you today as we dive into ePubs. Tarveen?
Hi everyone, good morning, good evening. Thank you so much for joining our session. Myself, Tarveen, and I head accessibility practice at Magic EdTech.
Alrighty. So just some housekeeping before we begin. Like Erin mentioned, we do have closed captions enabled. So if you need or would like to use them, you can go ahead and hit the captions button at the bottom of your screen. To start, we'll go through the topic for a little bit, and then afterwards we will go into a QA session. You can use the question and answer box in the bottom to submit any questions, and we'll address them afterwards. Alrighty, so for our intro slide, we have accessibility isn't just about making things better for those with disabilities, it's about making things better for everyone. And for our agenda for the day, first we'll talk about what an ePub is, then we'll discuss the history of ePubs, then we'll go into what's new in ePub 3.3, then we'll go into types of ePubs, then we'll discuss AI within ePubs, and then we'll go into our question and answer. All right, so to start, what is an ePub? An ePub stands for electronic publication, and an ebook file format uses a period EPUB file extension. This file format is almost 20 years old. Is more than 20 years old. ePubs are supported by many e-readers, ADE, Kobo, Kindle Paperwhite, Amazon Kindle, Calibri, and custom readers. ePubs can be read on your smartphone, a tablet, an e-reader, or a computer. ePubs facilitate the inclusion of multimedia elements such as images, audio, and video, enabling the creation of interactive and enriched ebooks. Additionally, ePubs support hyperlinks and cross-reference enhanced navigation. Additionally, ePub 3.3 is the most recent version of ePubs. All right, and going into the history of ePubs. So to start, in the 1990s, the initial version of ePubs was introduced under the name Open eBook Format. In 1999, the International Digital Publishing Forum, IDPF, was established to develop standards for interchange and distribution of digital publications. In 2017, the IDPF merged with W3C, and this officially ensured accessibility compliant ePubs, which is wonderful. And in 2023, the W3C released ePub 3.3, which is the newest ePub standard. And I think we have...
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, what I was just going to say is here on the screen is a visual timeline. We didn't go through every single step, but as Anjali had mentioned, the format's been around for more than 20 years, and there have been various iterations to it, which is obviously why we are now in the 3.x version of the ePub.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erin. And now we have a poll up for you. So the question on the poll says, what does ePub 3 signify in terms of accessibility? Your first option is enhanced accessibility features in the third edition of ePub format. Your second option is limited accessibility support in an older format. Your third option is a term for audiobooks. And your fourth option is focus on multimedia elements without accessibility features. Give you a minute to go ahead and answer that. Alrighty, and most of you answered enhanced accessibility features in the third edition of the ePub format.
That is a great way to transition into what is new with ePub 3.3. It is not representing a ton of new changes. Pooja, if you can switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. Just so you know, it's not an overhaul, it's just some updates. There are some streamlined specifications. New content the new content types that you can now include in your ePubs are WebP, which is a modern image format that is designed specifically for websites. You can have smaller files in there, so therefore making the overall size of your ePub smaller, which improves its efficiency as you're reading through it. And also OPUS or Opus, which is an open source audio code that is also optimized for the web. So those new content types are able to enhance the ePub loading speed and the quality as we move forward. And that's especially important if you're thinking about different ways that you're utilizing an ePub, whether you're on a smaller device or in a place with maybe some slow Wi-Fi or you're close to your data limit, that it just helps to make some things go a little bit faster. There are also some updates to the privacy and security. The biggest areas that have been included are some on the scripting, remote resources, the phishing, blocking some of the phishing that happens, data collection, and user-generated content. So all of these recommendations within the updated file format are there to improve the security overall of ePub 3 and the privacy of those files. Tarveen, is there anything with the new updates coming that you would like to add?
No, I think this is all covered. Yes, the main focus of ePub 3.3 was security and privacy, because then we know that the content gets copied and everyone needs a secure forum to publish their content. So ePub 3.3 is giving assurance on all the pointers that Erin talked about, that there will be more security and privacy related to the scripting, phishing, data collection, and all the other stuff. So it is now can be considered as the more reliable version to publish your data.
Alrighty, and we have a second poll up for you. So the poll question is, in ePub accessibility, what does the term reflowable refer to? Your first option is a format for optimizing image sizes. Your second option is a format that adapts content layout based on screen size and font settings. Your third option is a method for embedding multimedia elements. And your fourth option is a design principle for fixed layouts. I'll give you a minute to go ahead and answer that. Alrighty, and all of you answered a format, most of you answered a format that adapts content layout based on screen size and font settings, which is correct, and that leads us very nicely into our next slide. So types of ePubs, we have fixed layout and we have reflowable/responsive layout. So reflowable ePubs are designed like web pages to be responsive and adjust to the size of the screen that they're being displayed on. They cater to the preferences of the reader, and page breaks and image sizes may change radically depending on whether the ebook is being read on a phone, a tablet, or a full-size monitor.
So you can see, sorry to interrupt you, Anjali.
No, you're good.
Image on the screen on the right-hand side, you can see one ePub that is represented in various different hardware devices. And you can see how on the second image to the left is probably more like a tablet, and the middle one is a cell phone that is turned sideways. And you can see how the content has stayed the same, but the way that it is presented on the page is different. So this is, when you're thinking about, as Anjali said, these ePubs, the reflowable ePubs, are built to be more like a web page that you can utilize them in different formats, and you can also adjust the text size if you need to, and some of the other elements within the ePub to support your reading preferences.
Alrighty, thank you for that, Erin.
Oh, go back one page, please, Pooja. We're not done yet. Sorry, Anjali, I interrupted you while you were getting to about the information on the fixed
That's okay. So yeah, then we'll go into the fixed layout. So fixed layouts fixed layouts are a different kind of ebook where those kinds of uncertainties can be eliminated. The fixed ebook is preferable for certain types of books like graphic novels, comic books, and textbooks that rely on full page illustrations. Anything where it's important that the illustration stays where it is within the content.
And there is a question in the box that we will get to later about the conversation between EPUBs versus PDFs. We're going to save that for the discussion portion, but I just want to acknowledge that we recognize that sometimes it is better to keep the fixed layout versus having a reflowable.
Alrighty, Tarbeen, can you talk to us a little bit about fixed layout WCAG 2.1 compliance?
Yes, absolutely. So every time when we talk about like PDFs versus EPUB and we have a fixed layout EPUB, so can we achieve a WCAG 2.1 AA compliance? So answer is no. We always recommend that considering those are fixed layout, there are key guidelines that you end up missing in terms of compliance. So the maximum coverage in terms of compliance you can achieve for fixed layout EPUBs is WCAG 2.0 AA compliance. Now, talking about the key guidelines that are failing and what are the reasons for them. So first one is 1.1.1, that is non-text content. Now, why we say we are not meeting the compliance is because image-based fixed layouts such as comic books and manga typically fail the requirement of alternative text and descriptions because they can't be captured across all the stories that are conveyed through a imaginary content within the page. So it gets very difficult to convey all possible information on an image-based book. Second one is info and relationship 1.3.1. The reason we say that it can't be fully achieved because everything is done through span and div. You don't have direct access to fully accessible tables. That's why it partially meets bases your content type. 1.3.2 meaningful sequence. Again, if you have a fixed layout EPUB and it is divided into two portions and there are instances where you end up getting the callouts within the content, so it gets very difficult to maintain the reading order from top to bottom, left to right. You end up moving on to the callout section that is out of the standard reading order but actually helps you convey the information at right stage. Orientation 1.3.4, again, these are fixed layout, can only be done in the vertical way. You can't move them in both the orientations. 1.4.3 is the next one, contrast minimum. Considering there is a lot of overlaying text on the images and there would be callouts and other possibilities, it gets very difficult sometimes to ensure compliance and fix every item to meet this guidelines. It hampers readability for the content that is placed exactly over the images. Images of text, yes, we know that for fixed layout there could be possibilities of most of the tables and images of text being called out, and it gets very difficult to read the content through screen reader, but you can convert that into alt text and convey the information. Reflowable, again, fixed layout, so there will be dual scrollers that you will see, so you can't comply to reflowable guideline. And then text spacing, because text is fixed, we end up like sometimes it gets pixelated and sometimes it's end up overflowing. So these are the key guidelines where we can't comply to 2.1 requirements. So it's always best and good to reach at a level which is the max to ensure, yes, we are doing our level best to meet the compliance, but end of day, your EPUB's fixed layout are WCAG 2.0 AA compliance. Erin, do you want to add anything in case?
No, I think that's a really good overview of the big issues that come up when we're talking about the compliance. But as we mentioned earlier, we know that there are also times that a fixed layout might be the best way for you guys to go forward. So understanding what those limitations are before you make that decision as you're going into your full production is always an important part of the accessibility journey. So this slide here, we're talking through some of the best practices for how to make an ePub accessible. And a lot of these are very similar to the typical best practices that we talk about frequently here on Magically Live. So they include, using the semantic markup as much as you can, making sure you tag your headers, your paragraphs, your lists, your tables, right? The more that the authoring can be done and that accessible HTML, the better it's going to be that experience, especially for those utilizing screen readers. Along those same lines, making sure that your headers stay within the correct hierarchy. So you don't want to skip from an H1 to an H3. You want to make sure you have that H2 somewhere in the in-between. Avoid using those heading elements within other elements, because then it confuses it confuses what's happening. Is this a figure, is it an H1? We're not really sure. So just some good authoring practices there. If you have a large amount of XHTML files, you might want to consider how you're utilizing your CSS and use that CSS in order to format all of your files for that consistency. Images, as Tarveen mentioned earlier, images with text and other images, you want to make sure, especially something that's very detailed. The example we have here is a map. I was actually looking at a map the other day. It's a historical map, and it is very hard to see what's going on in that historical map. So when possible, making sure you provide those at 300 DPI, those detailed images, that's going to give you the best resolution as you move forward. And then math. I always take a deep side with some math. You want to make sure your math is coded as MathML. We know that there are some times and some ways that screen readers and MathML don't always play nice with each other. In those instances, we can add alt text, but utilizing that markup language as much as possible is the best way forward. Tarveen, is there anything on here that you want to elaborate on or that we missed?
No, I think we have covered everything, and we can surely cover a few of the core items in our workflow.
Awesome.
Okay, so moving on to how the transformation happens and what should be the ideal process. For ePub 3, we have outlined the end-to-end workflow on the conversion process. The usual inputs to the ePubs are PDFs, Word documents, InDesign, and we need to ensure that we have all text, audios, and fonts gathered in properly to start with the conversion. Then we do the actual verification and validation of type of inputs that we have received. Are they complex? What is the page dimension? Are these read-only files? All of that needs to be done right. And then we start with the transformation. We extract the text and the images from the PDF or Word document and generate a ePub package. That's the flow that we follow. Once all of that is done, we start with the actual accessibility implementation, and all the 6 key checkpoints that Erin shared in the last slide are the key consideration. Other than this, we need to ensure the logical reading order, language of path, semantic, landmarks, area properties, all vocab guidelines needs to be followed and we need to comply to. Once the remediation or accessibility implementation is done, we embed the internal links, glossary, references, and footnotes. That's the linking part that needs to be managed once everything is done. Then we need to ensure the fonts library is being embedded as part of the ePub package. Then only it will render appropriately and correctly across all the wide range of devices. And then once the package is ready, we get the package validated through ePub and ACE Checker to ensure it complies to the basic checkpoints. And once the package is ready, either you can host the package on a web or you can access as a standalone through the readers that we'll be talking about in upcoming slides. And then once everything is done, you are ready to get the audit, content and accessibility audit done to ensure yes, the package is compliant and everything is readable and accessible to everyone. And this package is actually the most convenient way to process your content, interactive content, and can be read and pass on through different, like, wide range of devices and screen readers and the readers.
Alrighty, so we have an audience participation portion of today. So for this part, you can go ahead and drop into the chat how you use ePubs, whether you use them at home or at work for leisure. We are curious to know if you want to drop in the chat for us.
Don't be shy.
On a Kindle?
Work.
For leisure and for work.
These are all really great. We're talking about some different tools and different technologies, mostly at home on my ancient Kindle. So Jenny, I also had an ancient Kindle, and I actually had to get a new one last year because they stopped supporting my ancient Kindle. So I understand that very well. So please continue to type in there, and we're going to talk through just some of those different devices and tools on the screen here. We've just listed out some of the different ePub readers that are available in the market, as well as some automation tools that are used for remediation and checking. So in the chat, you guys have mentioned your Nook, your Kindle, your iPad is one. The different apps there. Kindle Paperwhite. I feel like Kindle and Kindle Paperwhite should be two separate. Digital editions of Adobe, Calibre, Google Playbook. So you come across those ePub readers more often without even really necessarily thinking, oh, I'm reading an ePub. You're just like, hey, I'm reading my book. But those are ePubs. And then when you're thinking about the automation tools out there, we'll jump into that a little bit in the next slide, but it'll be, ACE by Daisy is a great tool for checking and for remediation. There's the Inclusive Publishing ePub Checker, text-to-speech through Amazon Polly. And I know there are other, companies and other tools out there that allow you to put your content in and validate, transform, change them as you go. But those are just a couple of examples. Tarveen, do you want to talk through some of the ePub validation and ACE checker reports that we look for?
Yes, absolutely. And we did talk about in the process as well. So these are the key 3 checkers that are there. And again, we don't need to rely 100% that these tools will give you 100% accessible outcome. This help you get the high level validations from the code standpoint. Yes, ACE by Daisy is most commonly used. Then we have ePub Checker by Inclusive Publishing. That's also widely used. And then for text to speech, we use Amazon Polly for the conversion and ensuring the embedded audios are being ingested along with the ePubs. So these are the screenshots. On the top left, you will see the screenshot from the ePub validator. You just need to browse your ePub package, entire package, and then validate. It will give you information based on what is the severity of the issue that needs to be fixed, and resulting into a non-compliance output, and which XHTML file, and what is the code message, why it is being stated as it is a failure. And then again, by ACE Checker, you get all the information based on the vocab guideline split, what is the violation severity based on, like, it is critical, serious, moderate, minor, and then the count, and then you get each and every detailed information on what exactly the failure is. Other than this, you also come across screen reader related issues which are to be fixed in the HTMLs within the ePub to ensure it is compliant. Moving on to next slide. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So this is where we see that ePub will surely gonna transform big time with AI, as we all are hearing a lot about AI and it's actually revamping every second. So what we feel at our end that AI enabled enhancements can be easily done to ePubs compared to PDFs. And what are the key differentiators that we can, like, you can get through AI on the table is that you can get the automated color contrast validation for images and content. You can, it will be very easy to convert the image based table into fully accessible HTML tables. Now that's what the complexity in ePubs is. Then there could be a possibility of AI understanding the bulleted content, ordered, unordered list basis the content that is being placed there. Then tagging and differentiation can easily be done through AI process. Then you can enable or like have AI model trained enough to understand what could be the hierarchy structure of your entire EPUB content, and that can be easily done. As we are already hearing about automated alt text creation and validation, yes, we know with all of this, you need to ensure that yes, manual review is there. There is a manual intervention to some percentage, but yes, these can be achieved big time through AI. Then math equation, as Erin said, that math equation is the most complex part, and what I foresee is that math equation can be converted into fully accessible MathML content through AI process. So lot of manual effort will be reduced and you will have better quality outcomes. So that's how we see and vision the EPUBs with AI in future.
And I want to touch base just for a few seconds on the converting those image-based tables into accessible tables. I know I've heard from different people that some e-readers on more complex tables or tables with multiple columns and rows, some e-readers basically can't read all of those tables. There are limitations within the e-readers as compared to within the ePub format. So that, you know, there are a lot of different moving parts and pieces when we're talking about just in general best practices. And here, you know, being able to make those conversions with AI would be fantastic. But we also know that if you have a table that has many, many columns and rows, there might be a better way to transform that content if you're able to make sure that it's legible by any e-reader. But just, you know, I really lean into where those AI components can come in. And as Tarveen said, you know, the requirement to continue to have humans review what we're doing with AI is not going to go away.
Alrighty, thank you so much for all of that information, ladies. So I think we are ready to dive into our Q&A session. So you can go ahead and drop any questions that you have in the chat or in the Q&A box. I think that we already have two. So Gary asked, would you encourage EPUBs over PDF files? Are they easier for non-tech savvy persons to create?
So without getting into the EPUB versus PDF debate in a deep sense, yes, I think EPUBs are easier for non-tech savvy people to work with. They are easier to format. They are, if you do not have a requirement for a fixed page, I would definitely say start with an HTML, either website or the EPUB, because it's a faster way to build what your content is, and it's more widely usable on different screens with fewer issues. That said, I've seen some comments coming through the chat and I haven't been reading all of them, but PDFs are absolutely here to stay, as are fixed layout ePubs. There are some instances where those are the best rate consideration for the users, and just keeping that in mind. Tarveen, is there anything you want to add into that?
No, I think we have covered, and Craig just mentioned in the chat that printers aren't going anywhere. That's the reason PDF exists. And he also mentioned that ePub will be better because it's not built with the printer in mind. So I absolutely agree to that, Craig.
Right, definitely. Gary also submitted in the QA box, I use assistive technology, Dragon naturally speaking, not screen readers. How voice navigable are ePubs?
So Dragon Speech actually works on the interactive elements on the page. So I think it gets very difficult to traverse through the content, which is non-interactive. And I personally have never tested Dragon Speech for ePubs, yes, but we do test Dragon Speech for platforms and other stuff. And whenever we test the same, we have seen that within the ePubs, there is a read aloud feature to ensure that you are not dependent on the screen reader if you're using any other assistive technology. So you can go through and read through the content using the inbuilt audio recordings that are there to support the content.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Tarveen. Okay, and those are all of the Q&As that we have in the box for right now. Go ahead and drop any.
One of the comments in the chat a little bit ago was, I wonder if you think ePub will someday replace PDF. So many people do not prioritize PDF for accessibility. And that has been a conversation, I think, since ePubs have come out as a file format. Someday is a long time from now. I think in the immediate and even short-term, mid-future, both file formats are going to be sticking around. You know, we've kind of touched on that. There are some use cases where PDFs are preferred, are required by different banks and governments, and that's the format that things are in right now. Fully agree that PDF accessibility is super important and not always prioritized. So it does make it challenging. And I think, you know, as users continue to use different technologies and see where they're struggling, I do see that there's going to be a shift in some of those more traditional markets where PDFs have always been used to, hey, let's consider putting this on a web page or into some other format to make it easier to use. But it's going to be not an overnight shift, and I think the PDFs are going to stick around for quite a while.
And we have one last comment by Tom in the chat, and he mentioned that it's interesting how different publishers ask us to change how our text-to-speech tool reads tables. It's like flat, left to right, row by row, and top to bottom, column by column. So, Tom, we shouldn't be actually agreeing to this approach. What we do and recommend is that the complex tables need to have SME, because you can't expect a tester or a developer to understand how contextually table needs to be conveyed, and table tagging should be done in a way that it retains the readability and it retains the pedagogy that we have been implemented, and the information how it needs to be passed. So it's not mandatory to read the tables this way. It's always good to ensure that yes, the information how that is being drafted is being conveyed in a similar way to the users with screen readers.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that, Tarveen. All right, if we don't have any other questions, then I think we can wrap up. Give it one more second just in case anyone submits anything. All Alrighty, and please feel free to join us for our next session on October 25th, where we will be discussing ensuring equity by producing accessible videos.
And I know that we're used to doing Tuesdays. October 25th is a Wednesday, so just take note that we intentionally know that that's a different day of the week. So we'll have that session coming up at the end of October, and then we'll have one final session for the 2023 calendar year. But we would love to have you join us for our accessible videos conversation.
The next session will going to be very interesting session. So we'll wait for you all to join the session.
Alrighty, and I will go ahead and drop that link in the chat here so you can click on it if you would like to register for it now.
And as always, we appreciate that your time and attendance today. If you have any questions, any follow-ups, any additional suggestions for topics that you'd like us to cover, please email us at accessibility@magicedtech.com. We will definitely look for your recommendations and suggestions. And if there's no other questions or comments today, we will see you in a few weeks when we talk about videos.
Alrighty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye all.
Bye.